Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Is Your Life. Now, as you know, we always try to find plenty of surprises for you, and we're going to bring you a surprise tonight. We're going to take you somewhere that we haven't taken you before, and This Is Your Life. We're going to take you to the backstage set where we hide the guests who form part of the lives of our subjects. If you just come back and take a look, I'm sure you'll recognize some faces among them. There we are, and I'm sure you'll recognize TV's first post-war announcer and star of countless films and plays, Winifred Schotter.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
And here is Station Sergeant Flint of Dock Green, otherwise Arthur Rigby. Off duty tonight, another famous face, star, band leader and showman here and in America, Ted Heath. And here, by kind permission of Dudley Grosvenor, Peter Jones. Well, now, tell me, whose life do you think that all these faces and names fit into? Can you guess? No matter what your guess is, you won't be right, I'm afraid, because they don't fit into any one life. They've been brought here tonight to help us say to one of them, Britain's ambassador of the dance band world, what a shock, Ted Heath. This is your life. Ted, you sit right down there. I showed you a false book a moment ago. Whose life did you think it was going to be tonight?
Robertson Hare, you told me.
I told you Robertson Hare, that's right. Robertson Hare, you...
Oh, calamity. It isn't, you know, Ted.
Yeah, that's his voice, all right, but it's not his life. But come in, Robertson Hare. Now, let me first of all say thank you, Bunny Hare, for helping us get this man here to the theater tonight.
Hey, well, it was a pleasure. Well, Ted, forgive this little bit of hanky-panky to get you here, but I think you'll say it's worth it. Yes, you'll see many familiar faces and revive a few memories, and I must say that I'm very proud to think that I'm one of your oldest friends.
You are, too, and thanks again, Robertson Hare, very much.
Cheerio.
Thank you. Okay, you sit right down there. Yes, not his life but yours, Tad Heath, but first of all, let us go right back to the 20s when a new sound called jazz came to this country from America, and where a young trombone player was on the way up. In 1925, you got your first big break at the Kit Kat Club, isn't that right?
That's right.
Yes, where names like Vincent Lopez, Paul Whiteman, Al Starita, Joe Lawson, Roy Fox appeared. One of these gave you a job. Which one was it?
Al Starita.
Al Starita, that's right. He left this country in 1930. But he's come back tonight from Palm Beach, Florida for you. Come in, Al Starita.
What are you doing here? I don't know. Don't ask me.
He knows. Now, look, Al, when we spoke to you on the telephone the other day, you said that you'd never heard of Ted Heath when he came and joined your band at the Kit Kat Club.
That's quite right, you know. As a matter of fact, a certain gentleman, a very dear friend of mine, whose name happens to be Jack Hilton, he recommended Ted, you know. And, you know, it didn't take me long, but I knew at once that this boy had something on that trombone. He could play sweet or hot, but terrific. And, of course, I had a wonderful band in those days, but there was Ted, always slotting in and pitching in with the rest of the top musicians. Amongst us bandmasters, you know, we called him a natural.
A natural. And
A
tell
natural,
me,
you know, natural.
in those days, was he an exuberant sort of a character?
Oh, no, on the contrary. Ted was a very conscientious and keen and serious-minded boy in his work, you know, and, of course, he could sort of grasp things. I don't know. We had musicians there from America as guests, you know, sort of come over, and, well, there was Jimmy Dorsey and Bunny Berrigan. Ted would grasp everything. I'd watch him study those boys and figure out, well, all right.
That's how it's done. And tell me, what about the music he plays today, Al?
Oh, well, today the story has changed. The picture has changed. I'm still playing clarinet, and I love Dixieland jazz. You know that, Ted. And, but I think Ted today, well, I think he's one of the all-greats that ever was in this business. Then, incidentally, Incidentally, I came a long ways from home, about 5,000 miles from Palm Beach, Florida, and the mayor, our mayor, Mr. Horace Miller, has sent you this token, which is what they call the gold key to the Gold Coast of Florida. Of course, that means the Palm Beaches. And it's to ensure that when you arrive in Palm Beach, we'll be there and just to greet you with open arms.
Thank you.
One more thing. One more thing, Ted. Just one small but big thing to me. It has indeed been an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight and celebrate with you. And all I can say, Ted, a job well done. You're the tops.
Thank you, Al Cerritos. Thank you. Please sit down, Ted. Well, he's revived quite a few memories, and there you are. But in 1919, Ted, your audience wasn't in the fashionable Kit Kat Club, but among the hurrying crowds on London streets. What were you doing?
Oh, busking.
Yes. You said yourself that as a busker, you played outside every pub in London. Do you remember this sound? Yes, he does. He remembers it. It's Tom Smith's Buskers Band with you on trombone, the first disc you ever made. You were called in from the pavement of Coventry Street to make it, and you got £2 for it. I thought so. That music and this voice will take us back over 40 years.
Hello, Ted. And I suppose you'd still like to change for an early turn?
That's a man known to brass band fans all over the world. Come in, Harry Mortimer. Harry, tell me, did Ted play with a brass band too?
But of course. All good players started like that in brass band.
Fair enough. Well, Ted used to call you the Menace. Why was that?
Not the Menace, a Menace. Because we used to go to solo contests every week, and I was lucky enough to win, was Ted a good second or third. But I think really what he wanted to do, like his father, was to conduct a brass band. But that may be an ambition yet to achieve. You might like to achieve that yet. But we brass band chaps, Ted, we're very proud that you started with us. We always said you get to the top someday. And what's more, you know, I think our fathers, that's your father and my father, they were very good pals, they thought so too.
And after these contests, did you talk about music, the two of you?
Unfortunately, not much, because he was never there after the contest. You see, they always like to get an early draw. I can never understand why, but one day I found out. He wanted to get off to join this other band, the Buskers.
Well, for taking us back over 40 years, thank you, Harry Mortimer. Thank you. Yes, by 1933, busking is only a memory. You're a member of the Ambrose Orchestra at the Mayfair, the money is good, you're running a car, and it's this car, and through this car, that romance enters your life. What was the name of the cabaret in the Mayfair? Do you remember?
It was the Buddy Bradley show, yeah.
Buddy Bradley's Ballyhoo Girls. That's right. And because the cabaret finished so late, you volunteered to run home 5 of these elegant young ladies in your car.
And I was always the last one.
Yes, of course she was the last one. Then Moira Tracy, now your wife. Come in, Mrs. Moira Heath. Oh, Moira, I wonder if you'd like to fill in the details for us about your voluntary chauffeur.
Well, we were piled into the car and he used to drop us off like milk bottles, you know, one here, one there. But I was always the last one, and we used to talk and talk and talk, you know.
What did you talk about?
Oh, well, Ted was very shy and rather intense. He had a lot of troubles and he needed somebody to talk things over with. I like listening, so...
There you are. Well, what kind of troubles could a successful musician have, tell me?
Well, he'd lost his first wife and was left with 2 little boys to bring up. Anyway, a couple of weeks after we met, he just suddenly said, "You're going to marry me." So I said, "Well, am I?" You know. I just thought it was rather a nice line, and I loved it, I liked it, but it wasn't a line. He kept on asking until I said yes.
Said yes. Well, since you said yes, I think you better sit beside him for the rest of the program. Thank you, Moira. Well, you're happily married with a beautiful wife and a lovely home when suddenly everything goes wrong for you. You lose your confidence and begin to think that your days as a top-class musician are at an end. And to crown it all, you lose your job. But when things are looking their blackest, a new door opens for you.
All right, boys, take it from the third chorus, the trombone cue. Okay, Ted?
You've said that you count him as your savior, your fellow band leader and former employer. Yes, it is Sidney. Sidney Lipton. Hello, Sidney. Will you tell us about this bad patch that Ted was going through when he went and worked with you at Grosvenor House?
Well, I think Ted was exaggerating somewhat when he described me as being his savior. All instrumentalists have their off moments. I certainly didn't notice Ted's. I knew that Ted was a magnificent player. Now, listen to this. Nobody could take that from you, Ted.
No, he was a tremendous acquisition for any band. But did he stay long with you, Sidney?
He was with me for 4 years.
Have you watched him since he left?
It's been very fascinating, Ted, to watch your meteoric rise. And
do you think he's changed since he was with you?
Oh, not a scrap, no. I was going to say, he hasn't changed a scrap. No, he's the same retiring, shy individual I knew when he first joined my band.
All right, thank you. Sidney Lipton, thank you. Well, now, Ted, a meeting with the late, great Glenn Miller has one particular effect on you. It gives you an ambition to lead your own band and to be as good as the Americans. But it takes nerve and money to branch out on your own. Moira, would you please tell us what eventually happened that persuaded Ted to take the plunge?
Well, in 1939, we went away for a weekend to Hastings. And when we got back, I thought I'd write a little poem of thanks and put it on the pillow for Ted. And when he came home, he opened it, he liked it, and he said he was going to set it to music and make a song.
Set it to music he did. Called it Lovely Weekend. In 1941, it became a big hit. Lovely song, and I think we all remember it. And from the royalties, Ted got the confidence to go it on his own. Now, you become, I think, Ted, one of the few musicians in the world, probably, to play both inside Broadcasting House and outside.
That's fine.
A bit warmer inside, I imagine.
It's much better.
I bet it was. Well, now, since those days, your music has found you thousands of fans, some temporary, some loyal and long-lasting, but I think the most loyal of them all has been Dennis Chaundy from Sutton Coldfield. Come in, Dennis. Now, Dennis, you tell me, when did you first meet Ted Heath?
Well, it was about 1947, Eamon. It was the Aston Villa football ground. And Ted had travelled down from Blackpool with a great friend of his and another maestro, Stanley Matthews.
Stanley Matthews. Now, you follow the band around quite a lot, haven't you?
Well, just a bit. I've been all over Britain and the continent with the band. I should say that I've travelled about 20,000 miles.
20,000 miles. And we know that you and your wife have become great friends of the Heath family, isn't that right?
Indeed we have, Eamon.
Are you
wonderful
not...
friends there, too.
But just forgive me, Dennis, you're not perhaps a little bit old for his type of music?
Heavens, no. Never say that. It's great stuff. Ted likes to think that the middle-aged people, shall we say, like his music just as much as the teenagers.
What about these days? What do you and Ted do?
Well, when work permits, we play a bit of golf together, Ted, don't we?
That's right.
And also watch a bit of football. Johnny Haynes mad, Fulham. But there's so much I admire about Ted. He's so much for the boys in the band. He's got a great sense of humour. But let me say one thing, Eamon, not early in the morning.
All right. Thank you, Dennis Chaundy.
Right,
Thank you. Well, Ted Heath, conductor of the British band with the big band sound, decides to hire an announcer.
Here it is, folks. 30 minutes right off the top with Ted Heath and his music.
Yes, there's no mistaking that voice, of course. Actor and commentator Paul Carpenter. Well, now, Paul, you tell us, how did you come to join Ted Heath?
Well, I was in the Canadian Army in 1945, and there was the British band of the AF with George Millacrino, the Canadian band with Bob Farnan, and of course, Glenn Miller and the American band. And I was one of the announcers with the gang and sang the occasional vocal, very occasional. And as a matter of fact, I was on my way home practically, and one morning I got a phone call from a character by the name of Ted Heath. I'd never heard of him. They told me he played trombone with Geraldo's orchestra, and he said he was going to do some Sunday concerts at the Palladium, and unfortunately his compere had been sent back to the States, Dick Dudley, remember? And he said, will you do it? And I said, well, how much? So he told me. So I took the pound, and, after the show, he said, I want to keep this band permanently. Would you like to join it? So 5 years later, he fired me.
During those 5 years, Paul, you did travel around the country with him, didn't you?
Oh, I travel around the country one-night stands, all right. This country and quite a few other countries. If you don't mind, Ted, there's one little incident I'd like to bring back to your mind. No? About Scandinavia.
Oh, no.
Yes. Well, we were doing a show in Uppsala, the university town.
Yes.
Yes. And the Danish hospitality is sensational, as you'll remember. And Ted, not being a drinking man, which made him very different from the rest of the band, wasn't used to this Skål, you know, the schnapps, aquavit, and I lumbered him because I got about 11 Swedes to say Skål and told them that if he didn't drink it back, they'd be very hurt. Well, he managed to knock back about 7, I think. And finally, it was curtain time, and I get out there to announce him, you know, number 1, opus 1, or whatever it is. Ted Heath, the curtain opens, and there's Ted at the top of this flight of stairs. And he starts coming down the stairs, walked right down the stairs, straight into the trombone section, fell flat in his face.
Well,
But it didn't make any difference. He got up and conducted the rest of the show as if nothing had happened.
is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, if you can believe I'm serious for a couple of seconds, Ted, I'd like to tell you that I'm sure that any success I might achieve in show business is due greatly to the association I had with you as a gentleman and a musician.
Thank you, Paul Carpenter. Thank you. Well, now, during the years after forming the band, you gain in prestige, but the customers stay away in droves. And although you've got the best musicians, you're paying them top wages, but there's no money coming in. And you have your own ideas of what the public should get in the way of music. Music like this. Yes, but they aren't interested. Then in Edinburgh, you come across a girl with a voice that you describe as the sort of voice that men leave home for. And you bring her to London to sing with the band. Do you remember her name?
Lydia MacDonald.
Lydia MacDonald, that's right. Now, Lydia could have become a great star, but being a sentimental Scot and became homesick, she decided to give up her career and go home. We tried to find her in Scotland and we failed. But our investigators went further afield to Rome, where she is at this very moment. And Ted, if you'll pick up that telephone, you'll hear what she has to say to you.
Hello.
Hello, Ted. It's wonderful to be able to join in your big night like this. How are you?
I'm very well. I wrote you a letter 2 days ago to Scotland. I've been listening to your record this afternoon.
Oh, fancy. I want you to know that I'll never forget your kindness to me. Remember the night I completely forgot the words of a song I was singing? I thought you'd be so angry with me, but I think you understood my nervousness. And when I turned up for a broadcast 2 nights later, dressed all in black, do you remember what you said to me?
No, I don't.
You said, hello there, in mourning for the words you lost the other night.
Well, it's awfully nice to talk to you, Lydia.
Well, it's been a lovely experience singing for you. Please give my love to Mrs. Heath and your wonderful family. I'm so glad the BBC decided to give you this honor, because I can't think of anyone nicer to whom it could happen. Well, there are more surprises to come. It's been wonderful talking to you. Bye-bye, Ted.
Goodbye, Lydia. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Lydia MacDonald. All the way from Rome. By 1949, you and your band have been chosen for a Royal Command performance, and later that year, you're introduced to a shy youngster with ambitions to be a singer.
Dickie Bryce seemed a good name to me, but you asked me to change it.
And change it he did. Come in, Dickie Valentine. We're beginning to rock 'em back on the heels, Dickie, and you've gone a long way since that first day when you stood nervously in Ted's office looking for a job.
Well, if I have, Eamon, it's all thanks to Ted, because his training was the finest in the world. I mean, he'd make us do our numbers over and over again, even though we thought they were okay. He wanted nothing less than perfection. I remember on my very first broadcast, I sang Faraway Places, and I thought it was okay, but Ted wasn't satisfied with it.
Did he bawl you out?
Well, yes, in his own quiet way he did. He said, you know, that's supposed to be a song about romance. The way you're singing it, it could be about boiled beef and carrots.
Well, to mix my metaphors, it was a case of him putting all his cards in the one vegetable pot, what?
Before I finish, I would like to say thank you to Ted for giving me my big chance 10 years ago, and for teaching me such a lot about show business. And one other thing, Ted, that you may not know about, but I'd like to thank you for booking the band on a Sunday concert at Morecambe in 1952, I think it was, because it was during that concert that evening that I met the lady that eventually became my wife. And so I have two reasons for saying thank you and God bless you, Ted Heath.
Thanks, Dickie Valentine. Thank you. And Ted, if you just look over your left shoulder on the screen here, you'll see in a moment another singer who found fame and fortune with your band. It's Lita Rosa.
Hello, Ted. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person tonight. I should have loved to have seen your face when Eamon Andrews said, "This is your life." But, however, I'm busy doing pantomime in Liverpool. I didn't really think things would turn out as they did when I wrote you that letter from America towards the end of 1949. Do you remember I sent you a recording and some photographs? Afterwards, you told me that you were very impressed with the photographs, but you weren't quite sure about the voice. But I think you must have changed your mind, because when I returned to England in 1950, I joined the band, and I stayed with it for 4.5 years. Mind you, in the first year, I think I gave my notice in quite a number of times. I used to think that sitting on the bandstand and singing one number a night was pretty futile. Maybe I was impatient to get on. But you used to say to me, "Be patient, success will come." And of course, you were right. One of the many things I liked about you was the fact that you never ever hogged the limelight. When one of us vocalists was singing, you used to retire to the side of the stage so that the spotlight would always be on us. And I think that this is one of the many fine things that has contributed to your success. Well, I hope that that success continues for a long time to come. Good night, and God bless.
Thank you, Lita Rosa. Thank you. Well, I'm sure that almost 50 years ago, when as a child you played with the Wandsworth Brass Band, you could have had no idea of how successful you would be in later life. But we found one of the original members who played with you in that band. Yes, here he is from his home in Hornchurch, Essex, Mr. Charles Holt. Charles, tell me, was Ted in the band when you joined?
Oh, no. I remember him joining. He started with the tenor horn and then graduated to the trombone. Do you remember the old practice room in the Red Lion, Ted? Of course I do. Those Sunday morning concerts in Prison Avenue, so just outside Wandsworth Jail gates. But we never got any complaints from those inside, did we?
Tell me, how long is it since you've seen each other?
I haven't seen Ted since I left the band in 1919.
1919. Well, you two are going to have an awful lot to talk about. Thank you very much indeed, Charles Holt. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's in March 1956 that you have your greatest triumph, for it's then that you take your band to America. After the opening night at San Antonio, the American critics go wild about Ted Heath and his music. The superlatives are searched out once more as you and your band hit the headlines. In a month-long tour, visiting such cities as Fort Worth, Houston, New Orleans, the home of early jazz, Mobile, Birmingham, Alabama, and of course, New York. But it is not only the columnists who give you rave notices for your music. Top American figures in the dance music world are also lavish in their praise. People like Benny Goodman, Woody Herman, and Les Brown. But one person, more than any other, who was impressed with you was that great singing star, Nat King Cole. Now, we don't normally pick people's pockets on these programs, Ted, but here's a gold watch that he gave you in your closing concert. I better give it back to you. Beautiful one. Gratefully, Nat King Cole. And what's more, he has something more to say to you. From Detroit, Nat King Cole. Just keep an eye there, you'll see him.
I'm sorry I'm 3,000 miles away, Ted, to wish you the best on this wonderful occasion they are giving you. But as you know, in our business, we have to be separated once in a while. But I will say, when you were over here in America several years ago, we worked together on our first tour that you had over in this country. It was a wonderful pleasure, you and your wonderful musicians. And believe you me, we're looking forward to your return back here soon. And best of luck on this nice occasion, and do come back soon.
Thank you, Nat King Cole. Well, there it is then, the story of the boy trombonist from Wandsworth who grew up to be a household name in England wherever dance music is played. The only British band to top the Musical Express poll for 7 years running. And yet, still today, between sessions, the plain Wimbledon family man. What a wonderful family you have. Here they are. Come in, Raymond, Bobby, Martin, Valerie, Nicky, and Timmy. What a wonderful family. Aren't they really wonderful? What else could a man want? Oh, wait a minute, there is something else. What was that lifelong ambition that Harry Mortimer talked about? Do you remember? Yes? About conducting a brass band?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And here, not just a brass band, but the champion brass band of Great Britain, Foden Motor Works Band. Here is the baton. Go ahead, maestro, and conduct, because tonight, this is your life, Ted Heath.